Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. It is terrific to see this large crowd here, and welcome to our annual ethics training. My name is Paul Compton, and it is my honor to serve as the General Counsel of the Department and as the Designated Agency Ethics Officer, or as we call it, the DAO. I will not try to break into song about that, though. As the DAO, though, it is my responsibility to ensure that our ethics program fulfills the role within the department, and training is a key part of that mission. I'm glad to see you all making this commitment to be here today for today's program. But before we begin, or as we begin, I am pleased to introduce Secretary Carson, who will share a few thoughts on the training today.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you all for making the effort to be here for this very important session. And thanks to the whole OGC team for the tireless work you do in representing HUD day in and day out. By enforcing not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law, you help our department reach its highest potential. Ethics is a subject that sits at the very heart of all the many laws that we enforce. It's a shared code that guides our conduct, motivates our actions, and helps us distinguish between right and wrong. So it's a pleasure to welcome you to HUD's 2019 Annual Ethics Training. Training is based on a government-wide standard known as the 14 Principles of Ethical Conduct. The first principle states that public service is a public trust. It requires all of us to place loyalty to the Constitution, the law, and ethical principles above our own private gain. While I know everyone here already operates on those principles, situations can arise where putting them into practice is not always as easy as it seems. That's why this annual ethics training gives you the tools to flag issues and risk long before you may inadvertently run afoul of any of these concerns. As a public servant, this really is our responsibility. And that's why it's important to come together every year as an agency to revisit the rules. You do not have to independently solve every ethics situation or issue by yourself. This training is designed to help everyone identify potential violations, and we encourage you to reach out to the ethics official for help in determining next steps whenever uncertainty arises. And I constantly find myself reaching out and saying, is this going to pass muster? Because some things that seem very obvious that you used to do when you were in private life run afoul of ethical standards. So don't ever think you know it all. HUD is a community that works through unity. We're unified in our dedication to helping millions of Americans secure quality, affordable housing. Unified in our ethical principles and how each of us goes through the process of determining right from wrong. After today's training, you'll feel more confident knowing your decisions have a firm foundation and that we're all on the same page as we write the next chapter at HUD. And I personally find that when it comes to ethical behavior, the golden rule works extremely well. So thank you and enjoy today's program.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and delighted to have you here with us for the program. Today is one of the most important trainings that we offer during the year. As civil servants, we are obliged to act responsibly for the benefit of our colleagues and our fellow Americans. But as Secretary Carson said, we can't do that without knowing what the rules are. And I'll be the first to agree with Secretary Carson that some of the rules are not always intuitive. Nevertheless, as government employees, we have an obligation to be able to recognize the situations where we need to stop, look, and listen, and often ask for advice. We must act in ways that reflect the expectations of public service and support our colleagues in doing the same thing. This ethics training will provide basics around certain of the ethics rules and give you the resources, and I hope reinforce the fact that OGC Ethics and Appeals Division is available to help on questions that you have, large and small. Whether this is the first time that you have taken this ethics training or your 20th, or perhaps for a few of you even more, Kevin, I'm not talking about you. I caught him looking away, so we're going to be on top of you guys. We must all ensure that what we do is done with integrity and maintains the public trust. I should note that this is not your only opportunity to hear from HUD ethics officials. We have them here in headquarters. We have them in each of our 10 regional offices across the country, and they can answer your questions and provide additional training if that would be appropriate for you personally or for the team that you lead. I hope that you will take advantage of that as need be. Let me close by saying I greatly appreciate everyone making the commitment to be here again today. This is a great crowd, and look forward to another tomorrow. Our ability to maintain an ethical and moral organization starts with us, and we have the power to determine how to respond to situations that arise in our day-to-day work, and I hope that this training will provide you with the resources to help maintain the department's high ethical standards. At this point, what I would like to do is to introduce our Principal Deputy General Counsel for Operations and Assistant DAO, Gail Bowling. Gail joined headquarters from the Kansas City office in April, and I'm delighted to have her on board and her here in person for the first time in a number of years for our annual ethics training.
Thank you, Paul, for those remarks. As Paul said, I'm Gail Bowling, the Deputy General Counsel for Operations here in the Office of General Counsel. In this position, I am also the agency's alternate designated agency ethics official, also known as ADAO. As the ADAO, I am equally responsible, along with Paul, in ensuring our ethics program is doing its job and keeping the agency on an ethical path. I echo Paul's comments that the ethics rules are not always intuitive, so taking these trainings regularly and asking questions are really important. I wanted to take a few additional minutes to discuss some things that are important to me as it relates to ethics. I spent over 20 years in the field and know from personal experience that so much of our important HUD work happens in the field. Each of our 10 regional offices has a regional counsel and a talented team of attorneys that are ready to assist employees in their respective regions and associated field offices with ethics questions to continue supporting the critical field work. You probably already know your respective regional counsel if you work in the field, but annual ethics training is not just about getting a refresh on the rules, but also about getting a refresh on the ethics officials you should reach out to when you have questions or would like additional training. As you can see from the slide, pictured are the 10 regional counsel. Region 1, Minyard Culpeper. For Region 2, Ventura Simmons. For Region 3, Cheryl Johnson. For Region 4, Sharon Swain. For Region 5, Courtney Miner. Region 6, Bill Daly. For Region 7, Byron Vance, the region from whence I come. Region 8, Matt Mussiter. Region 9, Mike Probst. And from Region 10, Mona Fendel. So please, if you have questions, reach out to these leaders. They look forward to hearing from you. I also wanted to take a minute to discuss the importance of supervisors in helping maintain an ethical agency. The government-wide ethics regulations actually acknowledge that supervisors play an important role in ensuring an ethical culture. Supervisors must serve as role models of ethical behavior for their subordinates and have a responsibility to ensure that subordinates are aware of their ethical obligations and who to contact when they have questions. Supervisors are also responsible for working with agency ethics officials to help resolve conflicts of interest, enforce government ethics laws and regulations, and help determine who must file financial disclosure reports. To support supervisors, in particular, new supervisors, the Ethics and Appeals Division here in headquarters is providing quarterly trainings to new supervisors that will highlight their role within the agency as well as discuss common ethics issues to help better equip them moving forward. If seasoned supervisors want to attend, just let us know and we can include you as well. Now I'll turn it over to Tony Cummings to help us kick off our training.
Thank you, Gail, for those introductory remarks. And good afternoon to everyone here in the auditorium and those watching via webcast across the country. I'm Tony Cummings, Associate General Counsel for Ethics, Appeals, and Personnel Law, and welcome you to this year's ethics training. We have what we hope will be an entertaining and instructive hour for you from our ethics team. Before we get started today, I want to cover a few administrative items. First, we will have time at the end of the session, so please hold your questions until then. Next, I know that certification for attending this training is everyone's top priority. For those of you here in Brook Mondale, or if you're attending a viewing party sponsored by your regional council, you should have a sheet of paper in your chair or passed out by your regional council designee with a link to the SharePoint site that you will visit to certify that you attended the training. If you're watching from your desk or via the YouTube link, the link will be shown on the bottom of the screen towards the end of the session and will be posted under the YouTube video. You'll have to answer all questions to receive credit for attending, but don't worry, I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. You will receive an email documenting that we received your certification. As many of you know, the ethics team tries to do something different every year to keep this annual training requirement interesting and engaging. This year is certainly no different. Today, you will receive, and we will receive as a group our required dose of training from our ethics team, but we're going to do it via a game show today. So without further ado, it's time for us to watch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Ethics Edition.
Joining me today on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Ethics Edition. I'm your host, Lindsay Allen. Today, our contestants will test their ethics might with a chance to win $1 million. Our contestants will have the opportunity to answer a variety of ethics questions, and each ethics question will be worth more than the prior question. And every contestant will play until they answer a question incorrectly or win $1 million. And because this is the government and we're under a continuing resolution, we can't just give away money without a proper justification. Therefore, all contestants will have to provide an explanation of the rule behind the right answer before they can collect the money and move on to the next question. Contestants will have access to lifelines, so if they're struggling with a question, they might call upon the audience to help them out. And before we get started, our lawyers recommended that we let everybody know that this training is inspired by, but not at all affiliated with, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the actual game show. So now, let's get started. Our first contestant is Brandy Sly. She is from Georgia, the Peach State, and in addition to ethics, Brandy loves to spend time with her family and play the saxophone. Welcome, Brandy.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Okay. All right. Your $100 question. A HUD employee, a HUD employee's friend recently opened a vegan restaurant in D.C. To help his friend attract more business, the HUD employee attached a flyer advertising the new restaurant to all of his work emails for the day. Which ethics topic does this scenario implicate? A, gifts, B, misuse of government property, C, impartiality, or D, charitable donations?
Wow, this sure sounds like a great friend helping in any way he can, but I definitely think he shouldn't be using his HUD email to do so. So this is an easy one for me. So I'm going to choose answer choice B, misuse of government property.
Final answer?
That's my final answer.
You are correct. Now, can you explain what the misuse of government property rule is to collect that $100?
No problem, sure can. So the rule regarding misuse of government property states that an employee has a duty to protect and conserve government property and should not use that for any unauthorized purpose. So some examples of government property would include the telephone system, office supplies, copiers, fax machines, and even the email system, which in this scenario that it implicated. So by the HUD employee using his email for personal reasons to help out his friend, that was definitely not an authorized purpose, he violated this rule.
Great explanation. You got that $100. Now let's move on to our $200 question. Here we have a picture involving Karen, a HUD employee, and John, Karen's former Target coworker. John states, "Thanks for writing this letter. I've been trying to get a job at this modeling agency for months." Karen responds, "You'll definitely get the job after they receive a recommendation on agency letterhead with an official signature." Which ethics topic does this scenario implicate? A, conflicting financial interests, B, HUD Reform Act, C, outside employment, or D, misuse of public office?
Okay, these HUD employees are pretty helpful. I wonder if they go above and beyond like this for their actual HUD jobs. But that's none of my business. We're going to keep it to the question. So Karen is helping out her friend get a job. So that kind of makes me think about outside employment rules, but I distinctively remember that the ethics rules only apply to government workers, and John doesn't appear to be one. So that rules that one out. So I guess the only other logical explanation or question or answer could be D, misuse of public office.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Good job, Brandy. Now, can you explain the misuse of public office rule?
No problem. So the rule for misuse of public office for private gain states that an employee shall not use or permit the use of his or her public office in a manner that could be reasonably construed to imply that the government sanctions or endorses his or her personal activities or those of another. So in this situation, it dealt specifically with letters of recommendation. HUD employees are encouraged to write letters of recommendation for whomever they choose. However, there are only two situations in which they can use their public office or official title and HUD letterhead. One being if they're recommending someone for federal employment, and then the other being if they've dealt with someone in the course of their federal employment. So since neither of these scenarios actually were, implicated here or applied here, she should have written that letter in her personal capacity.
Excellent explanation.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our $300 question. Which of the following statements do not involve an ethics violation for misuse of non-public information? A, HUD employee uses information he obtained from his office to purchase a foreclosed property. B, HUD employee prematurely discloses selection criteria for a NOFA to a PHA applying for the same NOFA. C, HUD employee sends job posting for a position in his office to a friend. The job announcement was posted on HUD.gov 2 weeks prior. And finally, D, while playing charades, HUD employee acts out confidential agency information that friend later uses to her benefit.
Okay, this is getting a little bit tough, Lindsay. So I think I'm going to have to use one of my lifelines here. I'm going to use
Okay.
the 50-50.
Okay, let's take away 2 of the wrong answers.
Okay. I feel like I have it. I feel like my gut's giving because D just sounds crazy now when I think about it. So I think I'm going to choose answer choice C.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Bingo. Now,
Yay.
what is the misuse of non-public information rule, and why is answer C not covered by it?
Okay, I think I can help you there.
Okay.
So the rule for misuse of non-public information states that an employee shall not engage in a financial transaction using non-public information or permit the improper use of non-public information for his or her own benefit or the benefit of another. So answer choice C was correct here because the employee who shared the information wasn't non-public anymore because it had already been shared on an external website, HUD.gov, 2 weeks prior. So he wasn't in violation of the rule.
Great. That justification gets you $300.
Yay.
All right. Let's get to our $500 question. Jane made a quick call to schedule a doctor's appointment during her lunch break on the work phone. George asked a subordinate to make 500 copies of his wife's book club meeting on the work copier. Which of these employees violated the rules regarding misuse of government time? A, George, B, Jane, C, George and Jane, or D, neither?
Okay, George, definitely. We can go ahead and throw that out. His actions are raising all kind of red flags for me. They should be for you guys. So in terms of Jane, I'm not too sure about her. Something in my gut's telling me that she shouldn't be really making personal calls on her work phone during the workday. So I feel like, just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna go with C, George and Jane.
Final answer?
Yeah, that's my final answer. Oh, gosh.
Unfortunately, that is incorrect. The correct answer is A. You were right that George did violate the rules, but he was the only one who violated the rules in this situation. So the ethics rules state that an employee shall use their official time in an honest effort to perform official duties. And supervisors shall not encourage, direct, coerce, or request a subordinate to use official time to perform activities other than official duty activities. In this instance, George inappropriately directed a subordinate to use official time to perform activities that were outside her official job duties, in violation of the misuse of government time rules. Jane, on the other hand, spent a brief moment during her lunch break, not her official time, to make a phone call. And HUD has a limited personal use policy that allows you to use office equipment when it doesn't interfere with official business, when it involves minimal additional expense, it occurs during non-duty hours, and it doesn't violate any ethics statutes or regulations. And Jane's brief call during her break certainly fits into this limited personal use policy, so Jane's actions were permissible.
Now I know.
George's 500 copies would not have met the limited personal use policy and would have been a violation of both the misuse of government property rule as well as the misuse of official time. So thanks for participating, Brandy. Better luck next time. But you do go home with enough money to buy yourself a new saxophone.
Nice.
We'll take a short break to hear from our sponsors.
Are you a supervisor? Under the ethics regulations, supervisors have many responsibilities, including ensuring their subordinates understand the ethics rules. To make sure you understand your responsibilities as a supervisor, please contact the ethics office.
We're back. Welcome back. Our next contestant today is Tiffany Smith Johnson. Tiffany is from Maryland and is the ultimate sports mom, spending her weekends watching her son play flag football and basketball. Looks like we have a couple things in common, Tiffany. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All
Glad
right.
to be here.
Ready to try to win the big prize?
I am.
All right, let's move to our first question, a $100 question. Lucy, a HUD employee, works in the Office of Grants Management, which is responsible for awarding grants. Lucy participates personally and substantially on a grant if she A, makes copies of grant materials for distribution, B, makes a recommendation for a grant award, C, works the grant hotline, or D, takes notes at meetings.
Lindsay, this one is easy. My answer is B.
Final answer?
Final answer.
You are correct. Now, can you explain the rule behind why B is the correct answer?
I sure can. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 208, which is a federal criminal statute, it prohibits employees from participating personally and substantially in a particular matter that would have a direct and predictable effect on their financial interests. Personal participation involves direct input on a decision, recommendation, or approval. Substantial participation requires involvement of a significant importance and requires more than official responsibility, perfunctory involvement, or involvement on an administrative or peripheral issue. So in this scenario, Lucy is participating personally and substantially because she's making a recommendation on which organization will be awarded the grant. The participation was more than just answering calls from grant applicants or taking notes in a meeting.
Very good. You've got yourself $100. The criminal conflict of interest statute has a lot to it. Let's move to our $200 question to continue to test your knowledge on this topic. Leo's government office handles enforcement actions against FHA lenders, and it is investigating AM lending. Leo's spouse is a loan officer at AM Lending. What should Leo do? A, tell his spouse everything he knows. B, resign. C, keep it from his supervisor. Or D, stop working on the investigation.
Now, Lindsay, who tells their spouse everything? But I
With you
also
on that.
recall with the last contestant mentioning that an employee is prohibited from disclosing non-public information. So I know A is not the answer. However, I'm not sure about the remaining choices. So I'm going to poll the audience.
Okay, audience, are you ready? Will you raise your hand if you think the answer is A, tell your spouse everything he knows? Okay. Will you raise your hand if you think the answer is B, resign? Okay. Will you raise your hand if you think the answer is C, keep it from his supervisor? And finally, will you raise your hand if you think it's D, stop working on the investigation? Okay, looks like an overwhelming response to that question being D, stop working on the investigation. What do you think?
I think I'll go with the audience on that one. So D, my final answer.
Okay, final answer?
Final answer.
Great. Looks like the audience knows their conflict of interest rules, but can you explain why Leo needs to stop working on the investigation, Tiffany?
I sure can, Lindsay. So again, here's the rule. Employees are prohibited from working personally and substantially on a particular matter that would have a direct and predictable effect on their financial interests. So with this scenario, we're focusing on particular matter. A particular matter includes grants, contracts, investigations, audits, and lawsuits. In addition, legislation, regulation, or policymaking focused on a discrete, identifiable class of persons is also considered particular matter. This may include regulations focused on FHA lenders or legislation concerning home builders. Particular matters do not include consideration or adoption of broad policy matters, such as legislation concerning workplace safety or regulations applicable to all people selling their homes. So in this scenario, the investigation of AM Lending is a particular matter. And under those circumstances, Leo had to recuse from working on the investigation. However, depending upon the type of disqualifying matter, you may be required to divest your interest.
Very thorough analysis. That'll definitely get you $200. Now let's move to our $300 question. Nancy, a government employee, owns majority stock in closely held TAPS Inc., an IT contractor with her agency. Nancy has been assigned to shadow the subject matter expert on a $5 million contract on which TAPS has bid. What should Nancy do? A, resign. B, work on the contract because she isn't making any decisions. C, recuse herself. Or D, none of the above.
Lindsay, I'm going to go with my gut on this one, and I would say C, recuse herself.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Recuse herself is what she should do. You are right. Now, can you explain why C is the right answer?
I can. So we're going to look back at the rule again. Employees are prohibited from participating personally and substantially in a particular matter that would have a direct and predictable effect on their financial interests. So here we're focusing on direct and predictable effect. A direct effect involves a close causal link between the matter and financial effect. The effect does not have to be immediate, however, it cannot be speculative, and it does not have to have an effect on the general economy. The effect is predictable if there is a real possibility that the matter will affect the financial interest. It does not matter that the effect is a gain or loss, however, it cannot be speculative. In this scenario, it's clear that there would be a close causal link between awarding the contract to TAPS and the effect that it would have on Nancy's financial interests, since she is TAPS' majority stockholder.
Spot on analysis, Tiffany. Are you ready to see if you can make $500?
I'm ready, Lindsay. I'm going
Okay.
to get this 500.
All right. John's spouse works for a HUD contractor and receives periodic cash bonuses tied to overall firm profitability. The firm has a pending procurement in John's office. John can participate in the contract if A, John can be objective, B, John does not review the bid submission of his spouse's company, C, John's spouse does not work on the contract, or D, none of the above.
Lindsay, this one is easy, and I'm really surprised it's the $500 question. I'm going to go with C. Since John his spouse is not working on the contract, then John should be able to work on the contract.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Unfortunately, that is incorrect, Tiffany. The correct answer is D, none of the above.
Oh, okay.
Employees cannot work on matters that will have an effect on their financial interest. And not only is an employee's financial interest covered by the rule, but there are a number of other interests that are imputed to employees, including a spouse, minor child, general partner, prospective employer, and an outside employer. In this case, John's wife has an equity interest in her employer, which is an imputed financial interest to John. Therefore, John cannot work on the matter at all, regardless of whether his wife handles the contract or John refused all but the bid submission of his spouse's employer. So while you didn't win the big prize, Tiffany, you are taking home enough for groceries for your growing boy. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And we'll be right back after this important message.
Are you thinking of changing jobs or retiring? Are you aware of the restrictions on all government employees after they leave government service on communications back to the government? Find out the restrictions that apply to you. Don't get in trouble because you don't know the rules. Contact the ethics office before you make your plans.
And we're back. Our next contestant today is Daniel Baxter, a New Yorker who loves University of Michigan sports and puppies. Welcome, Daniel.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. I'm such a huge fan of the show. Oh my God, the secretary is right there. Hi. This is so cool.
Well, I guess you're ready to get started then.
Absolutely.
All right, your first question. Okay. Stark Industries is applying for a grant which Pepper, a government employee, is managing. Pepper's husband is an employee of Stark Industries. What should Pepper do? A, resign immediately. B, recuse herself from the grant. C, work on the grant as normal. Or D, steer the grant to Stark Industries so her husband will get a promotion.
You know, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm such a huge fan. I do not want to get kicked off on the first question. So I am actually going to use one of my lifelines and call a friend.
Okay, who are you gonna call?
Hey, Wanda.
Hey, Dan.
What's the answer?
It's B.
I'm going to go with B.
Okay, final answer?
Final answer.
All right, nice work, Wanda. Now, Daniel, do you know why B is correct?
As I said, you know, I thought I knew the answer. Under the impartiality regulations, employees can't participate in a particular matter involving specific parties if a person with whom they have a covered relationship is or represents a party. And covered relationship includes your spouse's employer, like Stark Industries in this case. Also, someone with you have or seek a business relationship, a former employer within the last year, and an organization you're an active participant with.
All right, nice work.
Thank you.
Yes, good job. Let's move to our $200 question.
Let's do it.
Okay. Pepper is working on new SNAPS regulations, and her husband works for a SNAPS grantee. What should Pepper do? A, resign immediately. B, recuse herself from working on the regulation. C, work on the regulation as normal. Or D, embezzle the SNAPS money to run off with a much younger man.
Well, this seems like a similar situation before, so you would think the answer was B. But I've seen this show before, and I know you're not going to have the same answer twice in a row. And this is a regulation, so it's a little different, so I'm going to go with C, work on the regulation as normal.
Final answer?
Here's my final answer.
All right. You figured the game out. But why is why is it the right answer?
Well, because if you remember from when I described the regulation, it only applies to particular matters involving specific parties, and that includes things like individual grants, contracts, audits, investigations, and not broad policy stuff or regulations like the SNAPS regulation, legislation, and general policy.
All right, very good. That'll get you $200. Let's see if we can make $300 here.
Oh, we will.
Okay. Pepper has a mortgage with Wells Fargo and is working on review of Wells Fargo's FHA status. What should Pepper do? A, resign immediately. B, recuse herself from the review. C, work on the review as normal. Or D, keep the mortgage a secret but not be able to sleep at night due to the cold existential dread.
Well, You know, everyone has mortgages, so it'd be kind of tough for anyone to work in FHA if that was an issue. So I'm going to go with, I would normally think I'd go with C, but that was the answer last time, and I said you didn't do that. But you know that I know that you don't normally do that. So I think it is the answer this time, so I'm going to go with C, work on it as normal.
Final answer?
It is my final answer.
Smart, Daniel, smart. Well, while you figured out our strategy, in order to collect the $300, you need to explain why C is the right answer.
All right. So, as I said before, someone you have or seek a business relationship with is a covered relationship, but it doesn't apply to routine consumer transactions like mortgages, bank accounts, like car loans at normal policy. Again, no one would be able to work on FHA if that wasn't the rule, so
Yeah.
it isn't the rule.
Very good. Good explanation. You've got that $300.
Thank
now, let's move on to $500 question. Dom, a HUD employee, is working on review of Wells Fargo's FHA status. Dom's girlfriend, with whom he shares an apartment, owns a lot of Wells Fargo stock. What should Dom do? A, resign immediately. B, recuse himself from the review. C, work on the review as normal. Or D, use a device to enter his girlfriend's dreams in order to plant the idea in her head that she should sell the Wells Fargo stock.
Well, I didn't ask the audience. well, you know, they're not married, so it doesn't fall into the criminal conflicts rule like the last contestant was talking about, but, you know, they have a close relationship, they live together, so I think to be safe, he should recuse himself.
Final answer?
Final answer.
That's correct. All right. What rule requires Dom to recuse himself from this review?
Well, you know, in addition to the covered relationship rule, the impartiality regulations also say that employees can't participate in a particular matter involving specific parties if it will have a direct and predictable effect on the financial interests of a member of their household. And in this case, Dom was living with his girlfriend. She's a member of his household. She owned Wells Fargo stocks, so he should work on Wells Fargo stuff.
Super duper.
Yeah, it is.
You are up to your $1,000 question. Are
right.
you ready? Dom is working on review of Wells Fargo's FHA status. Dom has a creepy roommate he met on Craigslist and has no idea if the roommate owns Wells Fargo stock. What are Dom's responsibilities? A, Dom has no responsibilities. B, recuse himself until he knows all of his roommate's financial holdings. C, throw his roommate out on the street. Or D, use enhanced interrogation techniques to determine his roommate's financial interests.
Well, oh gosh. His roommate, I mean, it's still a roommate, a member of the household, so I guess that still applies. And if you don't know what the financial interests are, I guess you have to recuse yourself until you do. So I'm going to go with B.
Final answer?
Final answer.
The correct answer is A. Dom actually has no responsibilities in this circumstance, Daniel. Under the impartiality regulations, an employee is only prohibited from working on party matters when he knows that the party matter will have a direct and predictable effect on the financial interests of a household member. But Dom isn't under any obligation to investigate his roommate's finances to determine if there's an issue. However, if Dom's roommate had volunteered that he owned $50,000 in Wells Fargo, then Dom would have knowledge and would have to recuse himself. And I'll note, as Daniel mentioned in a prior question, that this wouldn't apply as it relates to spouses because spousal stock ownership is covered by the criminal statute that Tiffany discussed earlier. So thanks for joining us.
I totally knew that. You have to give me another chance.
Well, you've seen the show. As a frequent viewer, you know you don't get second chances.
Oh.
But you do have enough money to get some puppy chow for your dog for the month.
I don't even own a dog.
Well, you can buy a dog then. We'll take a short commercial break.
Thinking about transitioning to a new job but not sure what to do? When seeking employment with the entity, federal employees are prohibited from participating in a particular matter that has a direct and predictable effect on the financial interests of an entity. So before you contact that dream job, call or email the ethics office for free advice.
And we're back. Our next contestant today is Avril Usuri-Sisk, who hails from the great state of California and loves opera. Welcome, Avril.
Hello! I'm delighted to be here.
Are you ready to test your ethics skills?
Oh, yes, I am.
All right, here we go. For $100, which of the following is an exception to the gift rule found in the government-wide standards of conduct? A, cash gifts of $25 or less, B, solicited gifts from a contractor, C, gifts worth $20 or less, not cash, or D, expensive gifts for a supervisor.
I'm just taking a look at those. Somehow, it just seems that you can't take cash. I don't know, that just is kind of stuck in my mind. I'm going to guess that you can't take cash. Number C.
Final answer?
Yes, that's my final answer.
You're right. Now, can you talk about the gift rule and its exceptions to get that $100?
Yes, an employee may not directly or indirectly solicit or accept any gift from a prohibited source or solicit or accept a gift which is given because of the employee's official position. Some other big exceptions to the gift rule include things like gifts of $20 or less, other than cash. I got that one. And for up to $50 a year from the same entity, gifts that are based on a personal relationship, or widely attended events like WAGs, widely attended gatherings, and discounts available to a broad range of persons. Those are some of the big ones.
Great, very good. Got that $100. Now let's move to our $200 question. Which of the following would not be considered a gift under the rules found in the government-wide standards of conduct? A, a discount, B, a loan, C, coffee, or D, hospitality?
You know, all of those seem like a gift. I mean, like if somebody gives you a discount or something, I mean, they all seem like a gift, but I'm going to guess C because I think it's really inexpensive. It doesn't seem like it should be a gift, but it's worth very little. That's my guess.
Final answer?
Yes, my final answer is the coffee.
You are correct.
All right.
But why is coffee not a gift under the regulations?
Well, there's a gift exception for modest items of food and refreshment. And these are like soft drinks or coffee or donuts that are given to you, but they're not part of a meal, like if you go to a program. Unfortunately, alcohol is not included, so that's a gift.
Probably a good thing. Okay, you've got that $200. Good explanation. Now let's go to our $300 question. Under the government-wide standards of conduct gift rules, what is a contractor in relation to the department? A, a prohibited source, B, an SGE, C, an OGE, or D, an RSVP?
Wow, you know, this is more that government alphabet soup. I think I need to poll the audience. I'm not even sure. I have no clue.
Okay, are you ready, audience? Could you raise your hand if you think the answer is A, a prohibited source? Okay. Could you raise your hand if you think it's B, an SGE? Okay. Can you raise your hand if you think it's C, an OGE? And finally, D, an RSVP. Raise your hand if you think it's that. Okay, it looks like the audience overwhelmingly selected A, a prohibited source. Are you going to go with that answer?
I think I'm going to choose A. I don't know. I think I'll just go with A because most people went with it. I'm thinking about it.
Okay, final answer?
Yes, that's my final answer.
All right, good job, audience. Good job, Evriel. Okay, but before you can collect the $300, you have to be able to define what a prohibited source is.
Okay, I figured you were going to say that. It's kind of coming back to me. A prohibited source is any person who is seeking official business with the agency or anyone who is being regulated by us, anyone who conducts activities that are wanting official action, waiting for official action from us, anyone that has interests that could be affected by the performance or non-performance of an employee's duties, and an organization which a majority of the members are in any of these categories. That's a prohibited source.
All right, good job.
All right. So
Figured it out. You got the money. Yep, you get the money, and we get to move on to our $500 question. Which of these gifts between government employees is not permissible under the government-wide standards of conduct gift rules? A, food shared in the office, B, $25 birthday gift to a supervisor, C, retirement gift to a supervisor, or D, personal hospitality at a home?
Well, you know, we have parties in our office all the time. It seems like you can party and eat at work. We've done it. I hope it's allowed. And gifts to the supervisor, birthdays. We give gifts and we give retirement gifts. Both of those seem like they're okay to me. But that last one, personal hospitality, I don't know. I don't know anybody.
I'm not sure anybody want to go home with somebody from work. Why would you go to somebody's house? That seems weird to me and odd, and I think that can't be permitted, can it? I mean, really? That's my guess, number D.
Final answer?
That's my final answer, because I just think that's weird.
Unfortunately, Avril, it's incorrect. The correct answer is B, a $25 birthday gift for a supervisor.
Wow.
The rules regarding the gifts between employees prohibits employees from accepting gifts from employees receiving less pay than they do, except when there is no subordinate superior relationship and there is a personal relationship. This means that your supervisor cannot accept a gift from you. However, there are exceptions. Some of the exceptions are if the gift is $10 or less, if it's food or refreshments that are shared in the office, personal hospitality, Avril, even if you don't want to do that, it is actually permissible.
Hey, whatever.
And things that are customarily provided when you go to have a meal at somebody's home. Additionally, special and frequent occasions, it is permissible to give a supervisor a gift. Things like marriage, birth of a child, the termination of the subordinate superior relationship, such as resignation, retirement, that type of thing. Birthdays are not special and frequent occasions as they occur annually. So, thank you for participating today, and you still go home with prize money, so you do get tickets to go see Carmen.
All right.
So, we'll be back after these messages.
Are you interested in applying for a part-time job for the upcoming holidays, but aren't sure if it's an approved outside activity? The standards of ethical conduct prohibit employees from engaging in any outside activity if it will conflict with the employee's official duties. So before accepting that job, contact the ethics office and speak with one of our experienced attorneys. Commercials filmed on location in the HUD Library, room 8141.
We're back. Our final contestant today is Alon Adunvo. Alon is from Virginia and loves volunteering at animal shelters. Great to have you here, Alon.
Thanks, Lindsay. But actually, I'm originally from New Jersey. Not sure if you got that memo from the producers, but it doesn't matter. I've been applying for 4 years to get on this show, and I'm ready to show you how it's done.
Well, we're glad you finally made it to the show. Let's dive right into those questions, shall we?
We shall.
All right. For $100, HUD employees may not engage in A, employment with a business related to real estate, B, partisan activity outside of work, C, a covered relationship, or D, community service outside of HUD.
Come on, Lindsay. This is so easy. I actually used to work at HUD, and I know for a fact that HUD employees may not engage in employment with business related to real estate. So the answer is A.
Final answer?
Of course, final answer.
You are right. Now, can you explain the rule in more detail to get that $100?
Of course I can. Employees may not engage in any of the following on a paid or unpaid basis: employment with a business related to real estate, the operation or management of investment properties to the extent that it rises to a level of a real estate related business, work for an entity other than a state or local government that lobbies HUD. And also, for extra credit, these limitations do not apply to spouses.
All right, excellent explanation. You get $100. Now, let's move to our $200 question.
Let's go.
All right, prior written approval from HUD agency ethics officials is required for which of these paid or unpaid positions? A, a position in the same field as one's official duties. B, a position that requires a real estate license. C, a position with a state or local government. Or D, all of the above.
So while I worked at HUD, I had to ask for prior written approval for a few things, so I know a little something about this. And I know confidently that all of this requires prior written approval, so the answer is D.
Final answer?
Lindsay, are you doubting my intelligence?
It's part of the game. You've seen it before.
The answer is D.
Okay. Well, can you explain the rule to get that $200?
You know I can. So prior written approval from agency ethics officials is required for the following paid or unpaid employment: officer, director, trustee, or general partner of an entity that is a prohibited source, with state or local government, or in the same professional field as your official duties. Also, prior written approval is required if an employee has a real estate license, so long as they're using that license for the sale or purchase of their primary residence or that of an immediate family member.
You are well versed in the HUD supplemental ethics rules. That's $200 for you. Let's move on to that $300 question. Which of the following can a HUD employee have an interest in? A, an FHA mortgage, B, a HUD home, C, neither, or D, both A and B?
Guess what, Lindsay? I know the answer to this one also. So I literally know someone who had an FHA mortgage and someone else that had a HUD home. So the answer is D, both A and B.
Final answer?
Lindsay, you know the answer to that question. Final answer.
All right, well then, I guess you know the next thing I'm going to say.
Yes, I will explain. So my friend shared that there are some financial interests that HUD employees are prohibited from owning. Some include a financial interest in a project, including any single-family dwelling or unit, which is subsidized by the department or subject to no mortgage or other security interest secured by the department. Employees may, however, have an FHA mortgage on their principal residence and one other single-family property. They also may purchase a HUD home as their primary residence only.
All right, very good. Let's keep on moving to that $500 question. Are you ready?
I'm on a roll. Let's go.
All right. Prior to working at HUD, John was a real estate agent. John currently maintains an active real estate license. May John use his real estate license to help his coworker sell her home? A, no, because it's not for the sale of his primary residence. B, no, because it's not for the sale of an immediate family member's residence. C, both A and B, or D, none of the above.
All right, Lindsay, this is getting a little harder, but I do know one thing, and as you can see, I know a lot. There are specific limitations for a HUD employee who holds a real estate license. My gut is telling me it's C, and my gut is never wrong, so I'm going to go with C, both A and B.
Final answer?
Of course, final answer.
Fantastic, your gut didn't fail you.
And I know, Lindsay, I know that's right, so let me explain. An employee may only act as a real estate agent for the sale or purchase of their primary residence or the residence of their immediate family member. However, prior written approval is needed. So in this case, John cannot help his coworker sell her home because the home is not his primary residence, and as far as I know, the coworker is not his immediate family member.
All right, very good. Now for the $1,000 question.
Let's make that money.
Sally, a HUD employee, has a condo that she would like to rent. Jane, the potential tenant, has just informed Sally that she is a Section 8 participant. Can Sally rent her condo to Jane and accept Jane's subsidy? A, no, unless there's an exception. B, no, unless there's prior approval. C, yes, there are no restrictions. Or D, yes, because they are best friends.
I told myself, Lindsay, that I wasn't going to let you see me sweat, so I'm going to not use one of those lifelines like those other contestants.
You sure? You've got
No,
three of them.
I'm not going to take the easy way out. Okay. So I'm going to work this out myself. I know Sally can rent her condo as a HUD employee, and I know C and D are definitely wrong for obvious reasons. So I'm stuck between A and B. I'm going to go with B. She needs prior approval.
Final answer?
Final answer. I know confidently B. B.
Unfortunately, your gut failed you on that one, Alon. The correct answer is A. Wow. Sally cannot rent to Jane, a Section 8 tenant, unless an exception applies. The HUD supplemental ethics regulations prohibit employees, their spouses, and minor children from having a direct or indirect interest in Section 8 unless one of the following exceptions applies. The employee inherited a property in which a Section 8 tenant already resided. The Section 8 tenant lived in the unit before the employee started working at HUD. The tenant receiving Section 8 is a parent, child, grandchild, or sibling of the employee. The incumbent tenant becomes a Section 8 tenant while they are in that HUD employee's property. And finally, the property is in a presidentially declared emergency or natural disaster zone, and they have received prior approval from an ethics official. So in this case, we would need a bit more information from Sally to determine if one of the exceptions applies. But thanks for playing, Alon. Maybe you can take those winnings and donate them to the animal shelter.
I'm sure, I was so sure I knew that one, but don't worry. Like the famous words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.
All right, we hope to see you then. That's all we have today, folks. Thanks for joining us on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Ethics Edition. While no one won the big prize, we do hope you learned a few things about ethics that will help you in your daily lives as government employees, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Now back to Tony.
Thank you, ethics team. Again, that was entertaining as usual and instructive. But in the interest of time, we're going to reserve our time for questions here in Brook Mondale. We're going to stay here for a little bit afterwards. If you have any questions, just come up on stage and see us. However, you can also email us at the email address that's on the screen or contact your regional counsel if you have questions. There are also a couple of links to resources available to you via the ethics website on HUD at Work. The addresses are on the paper in your chair as well as on the screen right now. Finally, a reminder about our wonderful certification. For those of us here in Brook Mondale, or if you're attending a viewing party sponsored by your regional council, the sheet of paper that you have contains a link to the website where you will certify that you attended this training. If you are watching from your desk, the link is on the screen now and will be posted under the YouTube video. You'll have to answer all questions to receive credit for attending, but don't worry, you can't fail. So there you have it. You will receive an email documenting that we received your certification. Thank you all very much for another annual edition of our ethics training.